I know you're going to bless us in this generation. And they put little signs, signposts. At Emmanuel AME Church, where that devil came in and killed our people praying at the Emmanuel AME Church, with African Methodist Episcopal Church founded by Richard Allen. Also the Church of Denmark, BC. At the cornerstone of that church is the star and crescent. They were saying that one day, one of my descendants is going to get this, and they're going to wear a star. But behind that star will be the sun, and the sun is the Quran, and we see it fulfilled in the teachings of Imam Alfred, Mohammed, while Allah has given us a new sun. There's no Muslim on the earth has the understanding we have. And I was just recently at a gathering at an embassy, which will be nameless. There were others there. But I was ushered to the head of the table because I represent the ministry of Imam Deputy Muhammad. Not that I have a special title. I'm just an ardent supporter. And when I met with one ambassador, he said, "We know you're with Imam Deputy Muhammad II." Absolutely. And I was at another gathering a week before that with another big-time Muslim from a big country. Again, these could be nameless. And I was greeted there by a Muslim and a rabbi, big rabbi, one of the biggest rabbis in the world. And for the photo op, they had all the ambassadors there. And they said, for the photo, when they were doing the photo shoot for the big group picture, they asked Imam to come up. Imam Alfred Mohammed. Why? Because I represent you. I am bold, unapologetic, without hesitation, a representative of you. Number 7, I am produced by the great teachers like Imam Yusuf Shah, the great teachers like Imam Ismail Shafsadi, the great Ralph Mustafa. These were my teachers. They were my professors at UCLA, the University of Cornell, Lenox Avenue. And you all produced me, and great people like Sister Glad, all you great people produced me and gave me the backbone and brought up my natural president. I didn't have any high titles in the nation. I was an aide. I aided in the Secretary Department when I was asked. I aided in the military department when I was asked. I aided in the military department. I wasn't seeking a position, but I was seeking the resurrection of the dead. And I went throughout the city of New York, mostly Manhattan, teaching and telling, being the message spreader. This is what you don't understand. Many of you don't. The Nation of Islam was not built by any minister. The Nation of Islam was built by the rank and file men and women sometimes. That's who built the Nation of Islam. Tens of thousands of brothers out the streets, braving rain, snow, hail, and earthquakes. Well, there were a few earthquakes too. They braved this. The cause of resurrection, where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad cleaned up millions of our people. And I boldly proclaimed that on the Tavis Smiley show. And over 4 million people heard me. Over 4 million. Tavis Smiley's pretty big. He invited me on his show. And I didn't hesitate to tell him that we represent 4 million people. There are about 4 million of us. We have a few hypocrites who are running around dividing the community. No more than about 400 or 500 of them. They're small. And they poison the people. And the more and more you all help me and support me, encourage me, push me. I'm telling you, most people in the condition I'm in right now, I'm here being treated for stage 4 prostate cancer. Yes. But you know what, dear people? I am convinced I'm going to come out of here, and I'm going to come out of here in great shape. And the doctor tells me already I'm making progress. phenomenal progress. My numbers are going down, what they call the cancer markers. And I'm telling you, don't get so excited about medical treatment you get in the United States of America. This is very expensive. And you all are donating and helping me. But they have treatments. I was getting treated before I came here. Alternative treatment. It's the only thing that people with cancer specialists can offer you is surgery, chemotherapy. It basically kills people. I shouldn't say that, but it does. Because it has to kill everything in the body. It kills cancer cells as well. Then they have radiation, which burns everything. A cancer is actually a microbiotic disease. It is a microbiological disease. Stress, diet, and some of you blessed you don't have to. Don't make your case the big case, but I'm not speaking anecdotally, and I tell you something. I didn't do this blindly. My first love was medicine. So I'm not a doctor, physician, but I study medicine just as some would study something else. Medicine and law have been two very avocational interests of mine. There's not a day go by since I was about 10 or 11 years old that I don't read about medicine. General medicine, all forms of 5 branches of medicine. So much so, sometimes I come places, they think I am a physician, and they address me as a physician. But what I'm saying to you is, and what does that tell us to, dear people? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us to build hospitals, to build medical schools. We should build medical schools and teach our people the proper diets. He told us, less meat. You should be 80%. I'm going to be honest with you. You should be 80% vegan. 80%. But because Allah orders us to eat meat, eat meat. Eat. As you get older, the best meat to eat is light meat, and it should be halal, organic meats. Have these meats you get in the health food store and even halal stores. They're not. The animals are fed all kinds of dead animals. Well, anyway, I'm not here to preach that. I just want to talk. But Imam Muhammad has started that with the CPC. So let us gather as a community. And let us build as a community. Let us love one another more. Let us be in an environment. If you're home for the Ramadan session, if you don't have $100, which most of you do, get together with 10 people and put up $10 and invite thousands of your friends. Let's listen to the Ramadan session. The better minds will be there. Brother Imam Ismail Shamsuddin. First, Imam Alfred Muhammad. Let me tell you something. Allah has blessed him and is blessed him. Don't think he's a lightweight at all. He is not a lightweight. Brother Imam Ismail Shamsi is not a lightweight, a heavyweight. And Imam Alfred Muhammad II has more than all of us put together because he grew up in the house of Imam Alfred Muhammad and was taught night and day by him. I know this. I know him since he was 8 years old, so I know. You should trust my judgment. I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about no nonsense. And then you should know that Brother Imam Ismail Shamsuddin has been around for years. He knows I don't stroke him. If I disagree with him, I would argue with him. As I would argue with you, and you can argue with me. And respectfully in private. I don't allow people to argue with me in public. I would never argue with Brother Secretary Imam Ismail Shamsuddin in public. That's not proper. The jury go into the jury room and they debate. And usually they come out and get with a guilty verdict. So we got to do that. That's what shura is. It's not in and everybody who doesn't have knowledge, doesn't have facts, don't have faith, and sometimes weak people. They're not the people to engage in shura bainahum. You can't consult with a fool. You don't know the facts. How come you teach this? So dear people, we are very excited. We expect to be back in America May the 4th, and we are planning some demonstration. We want to go right into Times Square and let the American people know who we are. We want to go with pictures of Pope John Paul, and Imam Muhammad, and introduce the public to Imam Muhammad. Let the people know that God has sent a liberator to break the binds, to smash white supremacy, to smash any residual of white supremacy in the form of black supremacy. The so-called Black Lives Matter movement has been proven to be a fraud. Obviously, Black Lives doesn't matter, because if it did, they would be condemning the 9,000 African Americans killing each other. Obviously, can't lie. Let us stand and understand that we must first be responsible for the sacred life connection, sacred respect for Mama, sacred respect for Father, sacred respect for brothers and sisters, sacred respect for our great ancestors, sacred respect most of all for God. But we have got respect for God, but we don't have very little any respect for each other. Then let us sacredly respect education as the divinely given ownership that God gave us. And then let us sacredly respect the material resource. And let me just speak here while gambling and alcohol, gambling and the use of intoxicants are bad. The two gifts that God gives you is your intellect. And the second gift God gives you is the material resources. Let's not gamble without resources. That's what the gambling represents. Gambling. It's nothing wrong with things to invest in and speculate. We can't guarantee anything but life, death, and taxes, and obviously Allah. But let us sacredly put together our funds and buy buildings, buy factories, have our children coming off the hip hop program. What are you going to be, a hip hop? If you hip, when I was growing up, we used to say, "Oh, I'm hip." You hip? Man, you hip. But then you didn't hop. But some satanic person didn't know African American came up with this idea. They put it into us hip hop. All right, so hip hop. So you hip, you hop it. Hip, you hop. You skip from that with meaning to be aware. Thirdly, secondly, let's put more emphasis on the sacred respect for business. Sacred respect, doing it for God's sake. Getting rich for God's sake. Not like 50 Cent says, get rich or die trying. Get rich for the sake of God so you can be a huge billionaire and give out money and be a benefactor, just like our great ancestor Mansa Musa. He caused inflation. He gave away so much money. That's how we should be. That's how he is a sign of what African Americans must become. And then you have a sacred respect for the culture, so you won't be engaged in the vulgarity. You won't be engaged in the disruption. And you all who are Muslims, this is the first 10 days. I think I forget me going into the second. Remember the first 10 days. Well, let me just sum it up. First 10 days of Ramadan is mercy. Next 10 days, it's repentance. Third is release from hellfire. But many of you are being held in hellfire by the radio and television. Muslims, turn the radio and television off from Ramadan. Turn it on, listen to the news, and go back into reading the Quran. Fill your mind with the Quran and good thoughts. Turn those TV shows off. You should be watching that, especially during the month of Ramadan. You think you fast, you may not be eating, but yet you're depriving your body of food. You're not really fasting when you listen to these crazy programs. Well, 30 days, break these habits of the culture. These chains, these bonds that the culture have on you. Come up with creative stuff. You're going to listen to something. Listen to the sound of the Quran. You can even listen to the sacred music that our great ancestors came up with. And fourthly, regard your political life for the sacredness. Register everybody you know that needs to vote. Then find decent political leaders like myself who can advise you how to vote. Yes, I know the Democrats, and I know the Republicans, and I know the tricks of all of them. And we are going to choose the lesser of the two evils until we can build political parity in America, and we will even give the American people choices. We are the resurrectors. We are the saviors. we are the people that will save first ourselves, our people, America, and the